Hi. Okay, I was gonna do this live, and then honestly I got kind of nervous at the last minute and I decided to do it recorded, but I'm not going to edit this at all. I'm just going to post exactly as this video is. And if you're interested in watching live training sessions on YouTube or other platforms, let me know because I just think that would be a really fun thing to do. I just need to get brave enough to actually do it. So if you give me that nudge, that would be great. I wanted to talk today about this idea. I actually heard this on like a human podcast the other day, and I just thought it was a really interesting concept. And I just immediately, of course, realized that it applies directly to horses too. And that is the idea that being nice and being kind are not the same thing. So when you think about humans, a lot of times we think about like, you know, when you're being nice, you might say something just to be nice, even if it's not necessarily true. Whereas sometimes being kind means that you say the hard thing or the uncomfortable thing because it's the right thing to do, or because kind of zooming out into the big picture, it's better for the person you're saying it to. And I think that is true of our horses too. So an example of this I was kind of thinking about was about a year ago, I was in a baby group with my daughter, and one of the other moms said something about how she's having a hard time teaching her daughter manners because she felt like um, a lot of manners are very performative, and she wanted to really teach the intrinsic value behind manners. And while I didn't think about this at the time, it really kind of sat with me. And something that I kind of came to is I think that some manners are performative, and I think that that's okay, right? Like you are at the table and you ask someone to please pass the salt, and then they pass you the salt and you say thank you, not because you have like a depth of gratitude welling up in your soul, but because it's just the right thing to do to say please and thank you. And I think there's some of that with horses as well, right? Like there's some things that we do just because it's the right thing to do and it's nice, right? But where we go wrong is when sometimes the kind thing to do is the hard thing. So let's say you're at the same dinner table and your friend has a piece of lettuce stuck between their front teeth. Even though it's maybe a little bit uncomfortable, the kind thing to do is to let them know so they don't eat their entire meal with lettuce between their teeth and make an embarrassment of themselves, right? So it's the same with our horses. I have here with me right now Moonshine. She's just a little pony. And I think ponies are a really great example of this because often they are treated like small little cute pets. And so they develop some behavioral things. You know, they say that ponies have worse behavior because they're closer to hell. I don't know if it's purely breeding or characteristics that are innate to ponies, but I do think some of it stems from being treated too nicely their whole lives because people just love on them and dote on them and don't hold a good boundary. And something that I talk to my students a lot about is the fact that a boundary doesn't have to be mean, that you can hold a boundary just purely for the sake of holding a boundary. And it doesn't need to be a mean thing and you don't have to do it harshly, but that actually holding that boundary is kinder because then down the road, you don't have to get that horse into trouble if they, cross a bigger boundary, right? Like let's say like the mouthy horse, right? Like he's kind of over here nuzzling me. I don't mind that he's nuzzling me, but if this gets a little too much, I might just ask him to back up a little bit. And that doesn't have to be mean, right? I don't have to raise my voice or get too big, but I am kind of saying like, hey, there's a boundary here and I don't want you in my space. And another kind of interesting thing about, oh, and I should finish that thought. That is a benefit to him in the long run because now he's going to know where that boundary is and he can relax on his side of that boundary, knowing that he doesn't need to kind of keep pushing and finding where that boundary might lie, if that makes sense. So he's not going to then escalate to kicking or biting or running me over or any of those other bigger boundary crosses because I've already set a kind and firm, clear boundary here. Now, the other thing about this is pushy horses, I think a lot of times have been thought throughout history to be sort of disrespectful or dominant, but I think actually she could just see the pony over here because he's making some really cute faces. I think actually there's a really interesting conversation right now in the horse world about pushy horses and that what they're doing is looking for connection. Now, the big mistake I've been seeing with this is that we as humans, because we're nice, confuse connection and affection. Pushy does not mean your horse wants affection from you necessarily. Pushy could also mean that they want instruction, they want more communication, and maybe they're even looking for that boundary. So I was talking to somebody yesterday about this and she said, I have been told that my horse is looking for connection, but I feel like he's actually looking for control. And I was like, yes, but there's a little bit of nuance there. And that is that your horse isn't necessarily looking to control you, but he's looking to figure out who is in control, because if you are the one in control, then he knows if you can control him, then you can control the environment, and he feels safer. He can relax because he knows that you have it all under control, and he doesn't need to worry about that. That's not his job to try to figure out how to control the situation. And most horses want that. I think there are a very few that actually would prefer to be dominant, but the vast majority want to know that the person that is handling them has control of the situation, because that means that they can relax. So, if you have a pushy horse or a mouthy horse, or a horse that's always invading your space like this little pony is, it might be because they're looking for more instruction, more communication, or for you to take control. That doesn't mean be mean, but that means that the kind thing might be to set a little stronger boundary. So I'm going to show you a couple of things you can do on the ground with your horse that will start to implement that idea of setting a little bit of a kinder, firmer, more clear boundary without being mean and taking the kind of like sugary sweet niceness out that is kind of fake and our horses often see right through. Okay, so here's what we're going to do first. I'm going to set you up here. It's a little bit of a weird place to set you up because it's on a feed bin, so hopefully you can still see and hear me okay. I forgot my tripod. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is practice sending this pony out of my space and bringing him back in. And that needs to happen in a really particular way so that it's using body language and not physically moving him out of my space. The reason that's important is because this is going to teach him to look to my body language and my communication, and not to be physically moved, because that's just going to kind of reinforce the pushiness. So I'll show you what I mean. I'm going to back up so you can see me. I send him out. Shoi. Boy. Good boy. So all I'm doing is sending him out with big body language and then coming back to kind of a more passive body language and inviting him back in. And you'll notice those happen really quickly together. It's not a separate thing, because I'm not saying I'm sending you away and conversation over. I'm saying I'm sending you away, and then I might give you more instructions after that. So keep paying attention. Your job is not done. Now, the second thing that I would like to show you is sending the shoulders away. I think a lot of people practice a lot of sending the hind end away in groundwork, but I think we overlook sending the shoulders away. And this is a really important one, especially for those horses that tend to push into your space. So I'm going to show you that one, and then I'm going to pop into my tack room and give you a little bit more. Good boy. So I'm just pushing the shoulder away. Ideally, I would even do this without touching, but he's learning this, so this is new. Good. Okay, that's all for now. More coming soon. So regardless of why your horse is coming into your space, if it really is true dominance, which is incredibly rare and almost never the case, or if they're looking for connection, we want to look at why they're looking for connection, what is lacking. And I can almost guarantee you it's not the physical affection that is missing from the connection. It is the information, it is the sense of safety and security, it is the sense of somebody has this all under control. And with that in mind, what is the kind thing we need to do for our horse to help them to feel that sense of connection without them having to come and physically take it from us? Does that make sense? Let me know if you have follow-up questions. I think this is a much broader topic, and I think we could honestly do like several videos on this. So let me know what your follow-up questions are. Let's keep this conversation going. And I'm always here for discourse as long as it's polite and respectful. Let's disagree. Let's have conversations. Tell me what you think. Give me your opinions. I'm always here for all of that. Let's just keep it kind. Okay. See you next time.